This is a totally fresh new moment. Anything we've experienced in the past that would create expectations, forget about it. We're moving so quickly through this process on the planet now that it's kind of like being on an airplane. It's moving along at, I forget how many hundreds of miles an hour it's going, but it feels like you're sitting still when you're actually in the airplane, especially if the window's closed and you're reading a magazine or taking a nap. It just feels like you're still, but you're actually, and even more so if you're an astronaut, it could feel like you're still, but it could be going at, really super fast rates. In fact, the Earth is spinning at 25,000 miles an hour right now. So like, for instance, if you ever get pulled over by a cop for speeding, and they say, did you know that you're doing 60 miles an hour in a 50 mile an hour zone? You say, oh no, officer, I'm doing 25,000 miles an hour. You're underestimating how much I'm speeding, because the Earth is spinning at 25,000 miles an hour. So I feel that way, not on a physical level, but on the level of how quickly things are shifting right now, that we just have no idea. We can't gauge it. We feel different things at different times, and we can interpret it. So the best thing we can do for this Lightworker meeting is just absolutely let go of any expectation of what it could or should or might be, and really feel it freshly in this moment, what it actually is, what is actually apparent. And that's mainly through the heart, through the body, through the breath. So I'm going to talk a little while, and then I'm going to open it up for discussion, because the more voices that express something, the more powerful this becomes. Because that's something I've learned, is that when we come together in this space, each of us is a vital amplifying force. Nobody's a spectator here. So whether you speak or whether you're holding silence, whatever it is, you're amplifying this space, because the two or more gathered, there I am, is exponential. It's two is the minimum, but the more there is, the more amplification there is. So breathing, love, presence, these are all the things that allow us to contribute to it. So, there's those old jokes where you say, I have some good news and bad news. Do you want to hear the good news first or the bad news first? And in this case, it's not a joke, but I'll start with the good news. The good news is that everything is absolutely going to be okay. And the reason I say that is because, based on everything I know and that I'm receiving from my friends in high places, that we all are connected with, the victory of the light on this planet is absolutely assured. There's no question about it. It's already happening. However, the bad news is that, it's not really bad, but just, let's say, the more challenging part is that as this light gets more and more intense on the planet, first of all, it puts us through a lot of purification and changes, but also those people that are invested in denying it or resisting it and holding some space of power or manipulation or control feel super threatened. Yeah. Because they know the jig is up. And so what do people who are extremely invested in ego do when they know the jig is up? They do desperate things. They act out in huge ways. Now, when I say they, I know that old principle that when one finger is pointing, three are pointing back toward me. So I've been really staying in a state of humility about that. Like whenever, or at least trying to, put it that way. It's so easy for us in America now to just judge what we consider the other as just insufferably wrong, but I am more justified because I'm believing good, virtuous things. And that's a trap. Because the basis of our ability to be healers, to be light workers, is this holographic reality that we live in, which means that anything on the outside of us that we think we'd want to change, criticize, we desire it, or we want to condemn it, it's within us too. And anything on that outside that we would idealize, like somebody we see that seems like this super together person or so inspiring or has it all together, well, that's inside of us too. And what we might idealize as God or divine, that's inside of us too. So That's why I know when I'm pointing my finger at the people who I think are acting very badly in this world, in this country right now, I ought to know three are pointing back at me, and just move out of any sense of judgment or self-righteousness about it. What I feel like I hope we need to translate that into is serving, is bringing the solution. And we had a Bridge to Mastery meeting yesterday, and what Karen said, which I thought was so wonderful, is she said, she was quoting Montauk Chia, who's a teacher of Taoist inner practices and Tantra, and he was saying that to do any of this energy work, you have to light a fire in your belly. You have to have that passion that you're infected with inside yourself for you to really move and balance the chi and open up these new channels and the things that he's teaching. And we were talking about that, and there's a lot of truth to that. But what does that really mean? It doesn't mean that something's incomplete in us and we have to now work toward that over the next 90 days. It's not that. It's just in any moment we can shift into the passion and fire in our belly we already have, because everyone here has it. Guaranteed. And that's love. That's just this really like fierce love that wants to make a difference, that wants the human race to make it through this time and for ourselves to be realized. So for people that are wanting to bring more of the light to themselves and people around them, the community and the world, like through this really challenging time, what can we do? Well, I made a few notes and I thought, well, there's really three main ways we can react to like what's going on around us in the world. One of them is to choose being passive. Just check out. And a lot of people who I know who say they're really into a spiritual path and so on, just say, it's so coarse and so gross and so full of yuckiness, I don't even want to deal with that. I'm just going to pull myself back from all this messy politics and not even like think about it. Just stay in my space and retreat from it all. That's one approach. Another approach is to choose sides, to choose a position, and then get really like into your positioning, which is position means you against someone else who has a different position, is basically what it comes down to. And then defend that position. That's another way we can respond. And then, and both of those, as you can imagine, have a lot to do with ego and fear and projection and a lot of illusion. But the third way is to serve. This, like whatever amount of intensity or concern or, being triggered or anything that I feel, put that into bringing the solution. Really being the light. And that is absolutely an option to us right now. And the good news, again, is that it doesn't require any special qualification. It doesn't require being a certain level of spiritual growth or a certain amount of skill at being a meditator or a certain amount of virtue in your personal life where you never make mistakes or you're always humble to other people and you always apologize. There's nothing, I don't think it has anything to do with any of that stuff. It just is. And so I wrote down 5 things that I felt are ways that make sense to me to be part of the solution that I want to mention. And then we'll do a little practice, and then we'll hear from other people about how you see this. The first thing, and probably the most important one, is to hold the space of love and stillness within yourself. Be in the silence, and specifically the feeling of love. But then when the fearful part of us hears the words, well, it's getting so intense out there, and there's so many things threatening things that we believe in and that are destabilizing things that are precious to us. It could be very easy to go into the state of fear and just say, whoa, well, that's too much for me. I don't think I can hold the stillness with this much crap going on. But yet that's exactly what we need to do. That's who we are. That's the beings we are, that we actually have this capacity. We may not know we have this capacity yet. We may doubt we have this capacity. But this is exactly what we need to do. It's a lot of letting go. We don't need to create the stillness. We don't need to create any love. We got infinite amounts of stillness and love in us already. It's like becoming a real kung fu master at rapidly letting go of stuff that tries to come in and pull us away from it, and not investing into those things. And to me, it's a moment-to-moment process. It's not like something where I get it down and now I have that done. It's like a moment-to-moment process. And yeah, I've been feeling, I call it offers, like these offers from different parts of my mind to lower my vibration, to become anxious, to become depressed, like to start overdoing, trying to fix things. Like all those little offers are going on frequently in my mind, and I'm doing this kung fu dance of hearing the offer and saying, no thank you. Not even have to say 3 syllables, no thank you. It's just like a much more primal thing than like just simply shifting my attention back from that offer. In fact, once I wrote this skit where there's like this fancy dress ball going on, and there's all these people dressed to the nines in beautiful evening gowns and tuxedos, and they're all having a wonderful time. And this waiter, like with a little mustache and a towel over his arm, comes around with this tray of hors d'oeuvres and comes up to each person and says, would you like a self-loathing aperitif? Oh, sure, I'd love to have that. Would you like a dualistic, fearful bonbon? And people just take these, and then they start getting more and more depressed and stop talking, stop laughing. And it sounds like such a funny story, but that's what we do. Like we're in this state of light, and then these offers are made by that little waiter with the towel over his arm. How would you like to lower your vibration and get really worried about what's going on right now, and then get worried and kind of shut down your light? Sure, I'd love to do that. I'll have that. It sounds funny, but it's actually what I experience. So then in this kung fu dance, how quickly, how adept, how graceful can I be at just like not even to take the time to say no thank you. Just breathe and feel the love again. Be in the light again. Be the light again. So that's the first thing, is hold the space of love and stillness. The second one is offer blessings continuously. And if you're wondering if you're capable of doing it, yes, you are. Because it's just like that you're capable of breathing. You're capable of having digestion going on. These are autonomic things. That's our physically, and these are our spiritual autonomic things. If we're not blocking our light, we can be a blessing source continuously. So we have to explore, what that feels like. All of us are learning this. But there's one specific way of doing that Buddhists have used for a long time. That's called Tonglen. It's a practice that when I first heard about it really scared the crap out of me because I read it in a Buddhist book. But what it basically is you breathe in the suffering of people around you, and then you breathe back love and blessings. So when I first heard that, it really scared me because I thought, well, I don't want to take on all the heaviness and crap of people around me. But I think recently I've been understanding that because of this holographic universe we live in, we're not taking on anything from anybody. The pain we're breathing in is simply the pain that's in our own hologram, that's in our own, that we are resonating with. Otherwise we wouldn't be perceiving it. So anytime you notice yourself suffering in any way, shape, or form, or you sense a room full of people where they're suffering, without any need to take anything, that old spiritual thing, I took on yucky energy from this person, or I got slime from this person. That's not what this is about. It's just simply being the Buddha, breathing in that, and then breathing back a blessing. And by breathing back a blessing, it neutralizes any possibility that you're getting slimed or anything like that. So I've been practicing that a lot lately. Breathing in whatever pain or agonizing I've been aware of. Breathing back compassion and love. Yeah, and that can become a full-time job. Okay, number 3 would be a transmitter. And that's what we already are. It's just a matter of recognizing it. A transmitter is some system that can take energy from one level and share it in some way or transmute it in some way. So at this moment, there is a downward download of ultimate high frequency love and light that is streaming into this group and to each one of us if we just say yes to it. Can you feel it? I can feel it. It's not like a real gross, it's a very subtle phenomenon, but it's here. So being a transmitter just means acknowledging that you are receiving an endless supply of this high frequency light, and you just simply through love, through that fire in your belly, just extend it to others. And so what's the power of even a small group of people like we have here, or even any of us sitting individually at home in front of our altar, or even driving our car, in a traffic jam or whatever we're doing, just simply intend, I am transmitting the highest frequency of love, light, and blessing to all life on this earth. Or it could be a specific person you're thinking of. It doesn't have to be all life. It's whatever you're directed to. It's like I said before, the light is already winning on this planet. The light is already in tremendous exaltation on this planet. And it's just, and all these dark things are scurrying for cover. But that the fact the light is so high means that we can transmit much more easily than maybe it would have seemed 10 years ago or 5 years ago or maybe even 2 months ago. Now these are all things, once I get finished talking, I'd love to hear from you what your experience is with these things. But this is really tangible to me. And I've just made the commitment that I'm going to spend time being in that space of being a transmitter every day, at least twice a day. Even if it's 1 minute here, 5 minutes there. I set up a nice little altar for that, but that's not even necessary. You don't have to have an altar. These are things that are nice, but all it takes is you. So what's the effect on, when Jane was talking about this intensity of the polarization and that's going on in her community, that's happening. And so let's say that gets more and more and more intense to the point where, who knows what will happen. What's the effect if growing numbers of people are just transmitting to all life this light? I have no doubt it makes a significant difference. Okay, and then number 4 is sacrifice and be a renunciate. These are words from old Indian spirituality. You have to make big sacrifices. Don't eat food that tastes good. You have to be celibate and not have sex. You have to beg on it with a cup on the corner to humble yourself. And that's the old model of sacrifice. To me, there's only one kind of sacrifice, and that's choosing love over ego. Choosing love over fear. That's the only sacrifice we're being asked to make right now. Sacrifice the luxury of having self-doubt. Why do I say luxury? It's luxury because we're used to it. It feels much more comfortable. The devil you know is worse than the devil you don't know, right? So just having self-doubt and shame and selling yourself short feels so familiar that in some way it's comforting in some weird perverse way. And it's more uncomfortable to be free of doubt and actually feel like, wow, I have responsibility to be a transmitter. I can't just hide out in my little cave of saying, well, I'm not good enough and I'm ashamed of myself. That's renunciation, renouncing that doubt, or renouncing apathy. It's just too much for me. I'm just going to check out and be in my own little world. I can't handle this. That's another thing we have to renounce, or could renounce. And then fear and stress, the addiction to being stressed out. So that's what it means to me to be a renunciate now, is to be willing to renounce those things as often as possible. And then the final one, number 5, is take practical action. That's another thing we were talking about yesterday in the Bridge to Mastery group, is a lot of us are doing things like writing letters to undecided voters, or volunteering in some way with this whole process to help things move in a direction of things being equitable and fair and just. So I'm doing several things like that. Every night I'm writing out these letters and sending them to people who are undecided voters. I sent 1,500 text messages out to students. So I'm taking some practical action. I'm making quite a few donations. So we should do whatever we believe in, wherever our heart and soul is, make practical, efforts to do something on the third dimensional level as well. So those are the 5 things I came up with. Hold the space of love and stillness, offer blessings continuously, be a transmitter, and then sacrifice the luxury of being anything other than love. There's country and western songs saying love hurts or something like that. Well, love is a pretty vulnerable place to be. It's not that easy to be in love because you're more open and vulnerable. But that's a form, and then renounce those things which are other than that. And then finally, take action. So what I want to do is take a few minutes of being in transmission, and then after that, open this up to hear from other people. Just relax. There are certain things that we know help, like putting the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth. For the master hookup, tightening Mula Bandha between the legs. Breathing more deeply. Grounding to the earth. These are just basic, simple things that help us to be in the place of where we actually can serve, where we're more present. And then tune into love. Find out what the fire in the belly is for you.